Information tonight on a man and a pregnant woman who were killed in a shooting on the west side last night. Now, doctors were able to save that pregnant woman's unborn baby. A third unidentified shooting victim remains in critical condition at this hour. NBC4's Ted Hart is live on South Hague Avenue tonight with an update on this investigation. Ted?
Yeah, it was a little before midnight last night that neighbors heard the hail of gunfire that left 2 people dead inside this home, a third critically injured, and a newborn baby with no mother. And even for a neighborhood that has seen more than its share of violence in recent years, this house, 6-7, stands out.
911. We have
670. We need an ambulance now.
Okay.
My team up here.
Police believe the shooting may have started as a robbery. 3 victims inside were hit. 23-year-old Keith Williams III was pronounced dead at the scene. 21-year-old Marlasia Jones Maddox, 8 months pregnant, was rushed to the hospital where doctors delivered a baby boy, but Jones Maddox died. A third victim, a young male, remains hospitalized in what is described as very critical condition. One of the 911 calls was just the sound of gunfire.
This is 911.
Damn.
And police records indicate that one neighbor fired a gun at the fleeing suspect in a gray SUV. In a bizarre coincidence, this same house was the scene of a double homicide 15 months ago. A man and a woman were shot and killed in the basement. The killer, John Henry, was just recently convicted and sentenced to 46 years in prison.
Is that all?
Leroy Metters, a longtime resident of the neighborhood, says it's sad to see what's happening here.
I just don't understand it, really. Things, people now, if more people went to church and thought more of their neighbors, stuff like this wouldn't happen.
Now, these were the second and third homicides of the new year. Now, that newborn baby, we are told, is in critical condition at Nationwide Children's Hospital, and the other unidentified victim is at Mount Carmel West Hospital, again in very critical condition. Live on South Hague Avenue, Ted Hart, NBC4.
Ted, thank you.
Columbus police are looking for these 2 men, 19-year-old Christian Dillon and 18-year-old Mario Wade, who police say shot and killed a pregnant woman and the baby's father on New Year's Day. Shooting happened on South Hague Avenue, claiming the lives of Marlasia Jones Maddox and Keith Williams III, forcing doctors to deliver Jones Maddox's baby prematurely. Only on 4, Marzela's mother spoke with Rob Sneed about the search for the suspects and some good news, Rob, about the child that had to fight for his life.
Yeah, baby Markeith got out of the hospital just this past Friday and is at home tonight. Tonight, authorities, they say they need your help finding the suspects who killed his parents.
You know, I'm going to ask for the death penalty, so if you hear me and you did it, that's what I'm going to ask for. You need to go out of here and go straight to hell, because that's where you're going. You're going straight to hell.
Yvonne Jones says she has every right to be furious. Someone murdered her pregnant daughter, Marlasia Jones Maddox, and fiance Keith Williams III. Columbus police say Christian Dillon and Mario Wade are both suspects on the run.
What you did to my kid, that's my baby daughter. She's the baby. And she was so sweet. If you're listening to me, I'm mad about my daughter.
I'm sure she was. That's why she was in a crack house.
Because walking around out here ain't gonna be good for you.
She's clearly upset, but what gives her some peace is the fact that doctors were able to deliver Marlasia's unborn child.
I thank God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. And the blood of Jesus that saved him. And I wish he could have saved my daughter and her boyfriend, but it just didn't happen.
In the arms
blood
of
of
Jesus.
Jesus.
For the first time tonight, we're seeing baby Markeith home with family. He's their little blessing.
He looks like both of them. He looks like her. He has her eyes, and he looks like him too. He looks like both of them. You know, and the thing I'm so hurt about is that when he gets older, we have to tell him what really happened. That hurts me so bad.
But in this moment, Yvonne's sights are set on praying that police find these 2 and place them in jail where she says they belong. Yvonne also tells me that everyone in the family is pitching in to help raise this baby, and she also thanks the public for all of their thoughts and prayers. Local for you in downtown Columbus, Rob Sneed, NBC4.
Rob, thank you.
A swirling black female killed with her white wigger in a house that was the scene of another double homicide just a year earlier. I mean, can you make this shit up? You can't make this shit up. I mean, obviously, this must have been like a crack house where people go to get high. It was in a white neighborhood, and as they said in that report, just a year earlier, some white trash-looking dude killed 2 other people in the same fucking house in the basement. Remind me if I'm ever in Columbus, Ohio, to never go anywhere near this fucking neighborhood. This is a fucking house of horrors for real. Shit. Anyway. So, even though this story is close to a year and a half old, and I first heard about it around the time it happened, I decided to revisit it for several reasons. One, because of the House of Horrors history of this fucking residence that y'all heard about, where there have been 4 murders in one fucking house, okay? Which means, I mean, there were 2 double murders in this motherfucker. And, you know, the last one that occurred only 15 months before this one. And that, along with the circumstances of this case, are, I think, a pretty good indication, not a clear indication, but a pretty good indication that this was probably a fucking crack house in Columbus. The other thing that I had to focus on was the fact that I keep hearing these stories for several years now, even before y'all heard of me. There was another girl that got, she was killed. I forget her name. It was, her name was Dominique Gaston, or Dominique Gatson. She was shot and killed, and her white boyfriend was wounded in Columbus, Ohio. That was back in, I think, like 2012. And it seems like Columbus, Ohio particularly, because I've been, you know, doing a lot of research on Columbus, Ohio over the course of several years. And I've noticed that Ohio in general, and specifically Cincinnati and Columbus, seem to be the hood rat with white wigger type of dudes swirling capital of the United States. Now, we know that California, specifically Southern California, is the overall swirling capital of the United States, maybe even the world. But Ohio, when it comes to that Eminem 8 Mile trailer park type of MGK type of dude that black females, you know, these weave rats, these hood queens like to fuck with, Columbus, Ohio, and Cincinnati, but really Columbus, they're like the wigger swirling capitals of the fucking United States from everything that I've seen. Okay? So you have several aspects to this case that are particularly interesting. You have a black girl in a white neighborhood in what is obviously some type of drug house, whether drugs were being sold out of the house or whether this was just where drug addicts go to get their fix. And I suspected it was a combination of both, since they said that it was a robbery, and at the same time, you know, 2 other people had been killed there just a year before, and I believe those were white people that were killed by a white man. That this is obviously some type of drug house that's probably affiliated with gangs. Now, I find it interesting that when we hear these black females, a lot of them will talk about divesting from Blackistan. Yet, just like in the case with that black female in Mississippi that found herself with a bullet in the back of the head from the white police officer who she was having an affair with behind his wife's back, these females often wind up divesting into the same situation, if not worse, than they call themselves running from, which is Blackistan. Now, you have a case where you have a black female, and this either white or white biracial, I'm assuming, because his hair is kind of curly. I'm assuming this is like a white biracial dude, but he's obviously more white than he is anything else. Okay? I could tell from the neighbors that were talking that this is a white neighborhood. Columbus, Ohio, from what I know, is mostly a white city. And she's in this crack house. It was some type of drug house, okay? Because the people that were killed the year before were heroin addicts, and the white dude who killed them were heroin addicts, okay? She's in this setting where she's with her wigger boyfriend. I guess she calls herself leveling up. Yet she's in a drug house, in a crack house, doing God knows what. But nonetheless, in a very risky setting where pretty much anything, danger just lurks in places like this, okay? When you hang around certain locations and around certain types of people, and I don't know if her wigger boyfriend was a drug dealer, I don't know if he was a drug addict. I suspect he was probably more on the side of being a drug dealer. But the fact of the matter is, they never confirmed that these two actually lived at that house. They were at that house with a 15-year-old kid, okay? So what are two grown folks that are in their early 20s, early to mid 20s, doing in there with a 15-year-old kid that was also shot? That's like in high school. Obviously, this was a location where very shady things were happening involving drugs, okay? Why would a pregnant woman, because black women, they believe that they're queens and they are the backbone of the black community and all this, that, and the third. Why would a pregnant woman be in a drug house? Okay, whether she was doing drugs or selling them or not. Why, if you're pregnant, you know the history. If this girl, she was from Columbus, Ohio, so she had to know somewhat of the history of what goes on in this neighborhood, because they said it was a bad neighborhood, okay? And everybody know that this was the house of horrors because two people had been murdered in the motherfucking basement already. Why would you find yourself in a place like this at night with a dude? Why would you do that? That's just setting yourself up for shit to hit the fan right there. But again, you have to understand the reckless mentality of these females that are talking about how they're going to divest from one place to another, not realizing that what they're essentially trying to do is divest from themselves. Which is why no matter whose penis they're hopping up and down on, they repeatedly find themselves in the same type of situations time after time after time. In domestic violence situations where they're getting their asses kicked or killed, or in situations where they're, catching somebody, a bullet that's intended for somebody else, or single, after doing everything that the dude wants them to do sexually. They continuously find themselves in these situations, and they don't seem to be able to figure it out. That essentially what they're trying to divest from is themselves. Not only themselves physically, the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they act, what they put up on social media, but they're trying to divest from themselves psychologically, okay? You can't outrun your own personality, your own behavior pattern, okay? It's just like I said, what the hell would a person like me look like hanging out with Pookies and Ray Rays on the south side of Chicago outside of a fucking liquor store or outside of a fucking crack house? What would I look like? I'm not that type of black person. I'm not that type of black guy. So why would I ever find myself in that type of situation where I'm dealing with those types of dudes? Okay? If you're divesting from Blackistan, why would you be with a wigger dude who, and I don't know for sure, but I mean, come on, man. Robbery, armed robbery in a house where 2 heroin addicts already got shot and killed. And I can show you to prove that I'm not bullshitting. These are the 2 heroin addicts that were killed by the other heroin addict in the basement a year before Marlasia Jones and this Keith Johnson or whatever his name was killed in January 2018. Okay? See, says family blames heroin for downward spiral that ended in woman slaying. Okay? And as they said in the news report, the dude that killed him only got 46 years. The fact that he only got 46 years for killing not 1 but 2 people is indicative of the fact that the people that he murdered were not really, valued very highly in society. Okay, this was white on white crime, but nonetheless, how do black women repeatedly, I'm talking about swear, I'm not just talking about, these hood rats that, they know they ain't shit, they go with the flow of things in the hood. I'm talking about these females that call themselves divesting and leveling up. How do you find yourself in the same situation that you was in before you divested from Blackistan? Okay? How do you do that? Do you really think that your man's white skin is going to somehow save you from danger? From flying bullets? I mean, honestly, I really don't think that these females, their mindsets really go that far, because we know that they're self-sabotaging, they're self-destructive, as a lot of you brothers have said, they're agents of chaos. They're just thinking about, as a lot of you brothers have mentioned, they're thinking about what they want, what they could get right here, right now. Kind of like that song back in the day, right here, right now. Right here, right now, right here, right now. That's how they think. They don't think ahead. They don't think about what is the end game. What are the consequences? What am I going to have to do to make this work? What if this happens? What if that happens? What is the effect? What is going to be the effect of what I'm causing? If I get involved with this directly, if I get involved with this indirectly. See, I'm going to tell y'all something. I learned a long time ago that being a follower would get you killed or fucked up in ways that you cannot even begin to imagine. The worst thing that you want, the worst place that you want to be in any type of emergency situation, whether it's bullets flying, hell, a tornado on the ground, a terrorist bomb going off, a fight, a brawl, a riot breaking out, whatever, hell, a germ epidemic breaking out. The worst thing you want to be is in a crowd of people. The worst thing you want to be is a follower. Okay? What I suspect is, like most black females, this girl followed this dude into this house. They had probably been there several times before. Okay? Why they were there, nobody knows for sure, but I'm sure it had something to do with drugs. They may have knew somebody there, or they may have been waiting on somebody there and got set up. Who knows? But the fact that they would be in a known crack house, a known drug house, well, I can't really call it crack house because there were heroin addicts there that got killed before, but a known drug house, okay? And this woman they said she was 35 weeks pregnant. So what is that? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. Yeah, she was damn near 9 months pregnant, about to pop. And she's in this crack house with this dude. Well, she's in this drug house with this dude. And, I'm thankful that the baby was okay. Thank goodness even though the mother died, the doctors were able to save the biracial child. It's biracial, but it didn't do nothing. It didn't ask to be brought into the world under such horrible circumstances. But Why would you put the life of your unborn child in danger like this by being in such a setting? And you know, this truly is a miracle baby, because it looks like the Pookie and Ray Ray niggas that bust in there on these two, and you know, crack drug houses where drugs are sold out of, they frequently get robbed. I'm one to believe that they get robbed more than convenience liquor stores and banks, to be honest with you, because niggas know that where there are drugs, there's going to be money. Okay, so a lot of times they just go up in there and just rob the place. But you know, I'm also starting to wonder if the Pookie and Ray Rays who did this, they were part of some type of setup, you know, even maybe some type of hit on Marlasia Jones and this Keith Johnson III dude, because they tried to kill her baby. Honestly, I had to rethink this whole dynamic, that the primary purpose of this shooting was robbery, because they shot her in the stomach. And if they shot her in the stomach at close range, I know niggas can't aim, but in household distances, you can't miss unless you're Mr. Magoo or some shit. Okay? So why, if you're in there for robbery, if you just want to shoot the dude that you think has money on him and just, you know, get him out the way so you can get the drug money, why would you waste your time? And y'all heard the 911 call that I played earlier in the video, where they were just blasting the fuck off. Why would you spend that much time putting that much lead down range, where you can have it's two of y'all with guns. Y'all can have complete control over a indoor environment. You know, one of y'all hold a gun on the people in the room and the other one just robs every fucking body. Okay? That's typically what happens. Why would you waste your time shooting two people, a pregnant, you know, black woman and her wigger, if the motive is robbery? And why would you shoot her in the stomach when you can clearly see that she's pregnant? Why would you shoot her in the stomach, obviously trying to kill, you know, her seed, trying to kill her child, or trying to kill their child? It sounds to me almost as if this may have been personal, you know, like they may have been set up. Because I'm thinking to myself, okay, no, you know, nobody knows for sure what happened, but the fact that there was a double homicide in this case a year before, and the fact that they were there, Keith and Marlasia were there, like they were waiting on somebody, with other people in the house that they were probably unrelated to. Okay. And these dudes just bust in there on them. It's almost like these dudes knew they was going to be there. And the fact that these were young dudes, you know, they were young little savages, only 18 and 19 years old. You know, I don't think that it was personal between them and, you know, Keith and Marlasia, because, you know, there's kind of, you know, there's like a differing range bracket there between late teens to early 20s. But perhaps some simp or, you know, somebody like that may have paid them to take out Marlasia because, you know, she was with this white biracial or this white wigger dude, and they didn't like the fact that she was having his baby, because, you know, she's not going to abort a white boy's baby. So, and the fact that they shot her in the stomach and tried but failed, thankfully, to kill her baby, that almost sounds to me like that was some type of hit. Because, again, I'm not a criminal, but if I was a criminal, if I'm thinking I'm gonna run up in this crack house or this drug house with, you know, my boy and rob everybody in that motherfucker, I'm thinking I want to be in and out this motherfucker. Why am I going to waste time, you know, putting myself on murder one by shooting two people, including a pregnant woman, and becoming a fugitive, when I can just take some drug money in a corrupt ass, you know, from corrupt motherfuckers anyway, and probably get off scot-free? It sounds like this was like more personal, either more personal, or the dude, Keith, he was the dealer, and you know, he owed somebody some money or something like that. I don't know. But shooting a pregnant woman in the stomach in a drug house and the motive is robbery, it sounds to me like there was something more to this than that. And I think these dudes were probably contracted out to do this dumb shit. But either way, they're savages nonetheless. You know, I mean, swirler or not, you shoot a pregnant woman in the stomach. My goodness, that's some kind of low down ass shit. But again, this is also a classic case of what I say when I say that a lot of these black females, they dress up like ladies, but they don't carry themselves like ladies. Okay? And they often put their children, both born and unborn, in unimaginable danger. You know, whether it's bringing some stranger ass dude to their Section 8 apartment or house, or putting themselves in a situation, you know, like at one of these clubs where niggas are always acting stupid, or in this case in a drug house where there's no way that they could be looking out for the well-being of themselves or their children. If you know you're prone to doing dumb shit, but you're pregnant, and you know you want to have this man's biracial baby, the least thing you can do as a responsible mother is to wait until after you have the child before you go back to doing dumb shit, like hanging out at fucking drug houses. Again, I can't say, you know, looking at this girl, I know she's wearing fake up and looks can be deceiving, but she looks pretty healthy. So I can't say for sure that she was smoking heroin or crack or whatever. You know, I'm leaning more towards her white wigger was involved in the drug trade in the Columbus area, and that's how they wound up in that house. But nonetheless, these females, they're irresponsible on so many different levels. And then they want to come and they want to blame black men for the state that the black community is in. Okay? Now you have a baby that was born into a situation where his mother and his father were shot and killed inside of a drug house. Okay? And the killers tried to kill him too. Now he's been born, you know, through emergency surgery where doctors had to perform a C-section on his dead or dying mother. And he was handed over to a grandmother who, y'all heard her in the report. She sounded just as ratchet as, you know, the females that I'm sure she gave birth to, the grandmama. She sound ignorant and ghetto as hell. He's gonna be raised by a ghetto woman who's just as ratchet as I'm sure her daughter was, and a ghetto, you know, the sister of the female that was killed. I seen her Facebook, and she's hood. How is this child, this biracial child, wouldn't matter whether he was black or biracial, I'm glad he survived, but how is he going to grow up? Take a wild guess. And oftentimes, as we know, even after these girls, they had these babies, they still want to go out and club, they still want to go out and party, they still want to, you know, date and fuck these dangerous ass niggas or these wiggers. But again, they call themselves divesting from Blackistan. Again, I have to ask the black female the same exact question that I've been asking. I've been on a tear asking since the beginning of this year. How do you divest from yourself? Because what you're going to do is, again, as I've said, you're going to wind up in the same situation that you call yourself moving away from. And thus, essentially, you're kidding yourself. Okay? Because it's like trying to duck your mirror reflection and trying to outrun your shadow. It's impossible. So, you know, at the end of the day, man, black men, again, for those of you, because I've seen that there are weak elements amongst those who support my content. Okay? I've had to block some people that, you know, I thought were woke brothers, but they're true. When I started talking on certain things like the black woman's white God and, black, women in general being the leading cause of human death in human history, certain Negroes, they got in their feelings and their true colors came out. So I know that even in spite of all the videos that we've made on these subjects over the course of several years, there's still black men, even black men who pretend to get it, who act like they get it, who are still easily fooled, easily led astray, and are still weak-minded to these females, okay? And I intend to separate myself from as many of them niggas as possible. So please, continue to make yourself known by making dumb fucking comments so I can go ahead and block you. I said this before and I'm going to say it again. In the year 2019, when you have females that have this type of mentality, 9 months pregnant, in a fucking crack house, okay, with a wigger, look, I don't need any black man, because it's obvious. The black American female has made it abundantly clear, especially since she started coming out the closet like homosexuals did in the late 90s with, her worship and deification of whiteness. And she was already coming out the closet with her ratchetness for the last 30, 40 fucking years. I don't need any black man around me that is not willing to fully accept the truth, not only about these females, but everything that comes with them. Again, just because she pretties herself up to look cute, and just because she looks nice, in a skirt and heels or whatever, that doesn't mean that she is a proper lady. Most of these females now are anything but proper young ladies. They're the exact opposite, as a matter of fact. Okay, and the more they, I'm learning now, just like these females, trying to hit these talking points like Paris Milan and that idiot hoe that was that I made a video about, that was talking about, black women stop giving your man such a hard time. If they're not hitting talking points, the more they go out of their way to try to look like a super attractive female, the more you know that they're hiding something. See, I understand that the common problem that a lot of black men have is that when they see these weave rats or any type of woman, they lose all frame of logical thinking. Just like these females, they lose all frame of logical thinking when they're in particular situations. Well, in all fairness, some of them don't think logically to begin with. So you have a situation where you have, and I'm starting to learn this, you will have black men who will co-sign with everything that you say, and then one day they'll turn on you like a junkyard dog, and it's like they were on the other side the whole fucking time. And oftentimes it's not because they're double agents, it's just because there's a side of them that is still weak, when they see a Brazilian weave and, these, hoop earrings, and she got on some tight outfit, showing off her legs and thighs. They forget just how toxic and unfeminine these femtards actually are, and how much of a danger they are, not only to themselves and their children, but to black men. And I personally, I'm sorry, I understand that there are black men that are still, going through their struggles with accepting the truth about these females, even though some of them, know it clear as day. But quite frankly, and that includes people that post on my comment wall, if that's your problem, I can't associate myself with you, okay? Because there's nothing that I can say that's going to make you snap out of that mentality, where you don't realize that a majority of these females, no matter what they look like, no matter how much they pretty themselves up, whether they wear weave or natural hair, are your enemy. A lot of these weave rats, they're very, very good. They've mastered the art because they were taught by their baby mothers and their sisters and their friends from an early age, almost from birth, on how to, front, how to create misdirection, how to present themselves as, sexy, attractive, feminine women, in a skirt or, hot pants and heels, you know, as far as being physically and sexually attractive and appealing to a man. As you can see, this dead swirl thought was very good at that. She mastered the art of doing that. She liked to play dress up. But in reality, you know, and I'm sure she dated her share of black thugs as well. In reality, she made very poor and high-risk choices that wound up costing her her life, you know, her man's life, and almost wound up costing her biracial child his life. Okay? And you don't want to be around any female that thinks and reasons like that, because you're dealing with somebody who clearly isn't thinking at all. So y'all do what you want, but I'm going to stay the hell away from around these hoes. Talk to you later, guys.